I had been working at the coastal hydrology station for only a year, yet sometimes it feels as if I spent a lifetime there, or someone else's lifetime, one that should have stayed buried beneath the waves and never been dragged into the light. The station sat on an isolated stretch of shoreline, a grey metal block pressed against jagged rock. Far out, a lonely pier disappeared into the fog, and beyond that lay nothing but endless water, cold, steel blue, and silent, with no glimmer of life beneath its surface. I had been assigned to study a series of strange hydroacoustic signals. At first we assumed they were produced by rare marine mammals or distant underwater landslides, but then the signals started repeating with unnerving precision. The intervals were perfect, as if something deep in the darkness was waiting for the silence so it could answer. I tried to approach it scientifically, but with each passing day, the water around the station felt different, heavier, darker, almost alive, and every evening I caught myself staring at the sea for too long, feeling that it was staring back. The first incident happened at night. I woke to a deep, vibrating thud, as if something massive were striking the metal walls from outside. Thoom. Thoom, thoom. I walked into the main hall. The hydroacoustic monitor flickered, as if waves were crashing directly beneath us, but there were no waves. The sea was perfectly still that night, flat as black glass, probably an equipment drop. I mumbled, knowing full well it wasn't. When the thuds finally stopped, I felt a strange relief, until I heard something else. A sound seeped through the low-frequency receiver, deep, slow, multi-layered, not speech, not noise, a whisper. It didn't form words, but the sound resonated through my bones, vibrating inside my ribs. I shut off the equipment. The whisper continued for several seconds after the power went dark. The next morning, I found marks along the station's outer shell, at human height, were dense, 3 at least, as if something had wrapped itself around the station. But the imprints were longer than any human arm, much longer. I tried to rationalize it. Storm debris, warped metal, anything. But when the signals returned that evening, all excuses collapsed. The monitor displayed a shape, not an object, but a contour descending into the deep, enormous, larger than anything the station had ever recorded. And worst of all, the contour repeated at perfect 11-minute intervals, like a heartbeat, like slow breathing. I stopped sleeping well. Every night I dreamed the same scene. I stood at the pier, fog swirling around me, and from the depths rose shapes, human-like, but too tall, too thin, moving through the water as if it were air. They approached the pier, stretching their arms, long, rope-like limbs, and at the ends of those limbs hung small, twitching tentacles, swaying in harmony with my racing pulse. Then came the deep thoom, and I jolted awake. ***. Things got worse over the next few days. The station started to creak. At first I thought it was the wind, but the sound came from below, as if something massive were scraping itself along the metal foundation of the structure. I tried to ignore it, until one night, curiosity finally broke me. I walked to the observation window, and I regretted it instantly. The water outside was dark, not black, but deeper than black, as though it didn't reflect light, but swallowed it whole. And within that void, something moved, slow, lazy, as if drifting in no hurry at all. Then, to shape surface through the darkness, not breaking the surface, but rising just close enough to be seen beneath it. A pale, faintly glowing circles. At first I thought they were reflections from the floodlight, but the floodlight was off. And then I understood. They were eyes, huge, ancient, unblinking, staring straight at me from beneath the still water. I panicked and tried to call the coastal patrol. They picked up, but the voice cut off mid-sentence. They never called back. A few moments later, the station's screen flickered and displayed interference, source unknown, and then I heard it again, not through speakers, not through equipment. But inside the air of the station itself. Thoom, thoom, followed by a dragging, wet sound, like thick ropes being pulled across metal, scraping against it. The scraping traveled across the floor, up the walls, over the ceiling. As if something outside was feeling its way around the building. And then the whisper returned, not through equipment. Inside the room, right behind me. Wet, rasping, quiet. I turned. No one. But on the steel wall, I saw fresh marks, long, uneven streaks, as if tentacles dripping with sea water had been dragged across it. That was the moment I knew I had to leave the station. Right then, right now. As I ran down the main corridor toward the airlock, the lights flickered violently. The sound grew louder, and beneath the thumps, I heard something else. Dozens of rapid, slapping impacts, as if long, flexible limbs were striking the hull from all sides. I kicked the emergency lever and forced the airlock open. For the first time in days, I saw the sea surface just a few meters away, and I saw them. Figures standing in the water, human-shaped, but far too tall, nearly 3 meters, where their legs should have been. Twisting shadowy tentacles sank into the depths, coiling around their bodies like living ropes. Their heads were smooth, featureless, except for dozens of tiny, deep-sea eyes blinking out of sync. They all stared at Emmy, frozen, waiting. The fog pulsed around them in rhythm with a distant thoom. I took one step back toward the station. They all took one step forward, precisely in unison. Pure instinct took over. I ran. The fog thickened around me. The water below began to churn violently, and behind me I heard heavy splashes, impossibly fast movements slicing through the water. I sprinted to the pier and dared to look back, and I saw it. Something enormous rose beneath the waves. Not a shape, not a creature, but a colossal mass shifting under the moonlight, its surface covered in clusters of glowing eyes, and from that mass stretched hundreds of tentacles, some as thick as ship masts, others thin like strands of hair, writhing hungrily toward the shore. The fog around it moved, not drifting, breathing. I screamed and ran until my legs gave out. They found me at dawn, 20 kilometers down the coast, collapsed on the sand, soaked, covered in seaweed and salt. The hydrology station was gone. As if it had never existed. When they questioned me, I told them it was a storm, that I'd hallucinated the rest. How do you tell someone that the ocean isn't empty, that what we call the sea is not a habitat, but a territory? I lied. I said I remembered nothing, but sometimes at night, when the city finally falls quiet, I hear it, thoom, thoom, thoom. And for a moment, I swear something beneath the ground scrapes along the concrete foundations, just like it scraped along the metal of the station. And its whisper returns, the deep remembers.